story begins in a small town where two childhood best friends, Lisa and Emily, have been inseparable since they were kids. They shared everything, secrets, dreams, and even fears. But as they grew older, Lisa started noticing something unsettling about Emily. She was overly possessive and often got jealous whenever Lisa spent time with other people. One day, Lisa met a new group of friends at college and started hanging out with them more often. Emily's behavior became increasingly erratic. She would show up uninvited to Lisa's gatherings, glare at her new friends, and act as if Lisa belonged to her alone. Lisa dismissed it as harmless jealousy, thinking Emily just needed time to adjust. Things took a darker turn when Lisa received a strange gift on her birthday. A handmade bracelet with the initials L&E Forever carved into it. At first, Lisa thought it was sweet, but the bracelet felt unnaturally cold on her skin. She began having vivid nightmares of Emily standing over her, whispering, "You'll never leave me." Lisa tried to confront Emily about her behavior, but Emily brushed it off, laughing and acting as though everything was normal. Yet her eyes had a strange, almost predatory glint. One night, Lisa woke up to the sound of footsteps in her apartment. She lived alone, and the thought of someone being inside sent chills down her spine. Grabbing her phone, she crept into the living room, only to find Emily sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the wall. "Emily, how did you get in here?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling. Emily turned her head slowly, her face devoid of emotion. "I told you, Lisa. We're best friends. I'll always be here for you." Lisa demanded that Emily leave, but Emily refused, saying, "You don't understand. I'm protecting you from them. They're trying to take you away from me." Terrified, Lisa called the police. When they arrived, Emily was gone, and there was no sign she had ever been there. The police dismissed it as a misunderstanding, but Lisa knew something was wrong. The next day, Lisa discovered scratches on her bedroom window, as if someone had been trying to claw their way in. Her belongings were moved around, and messages like "Best friends forever" were scrawled on her mirrors in lipstick. Desperate, Lisa decided to stay with her parents for a while. But Emily followed her there too. One night, Lisa's father found Emily lurking outside their house, muttering to herself. When he confronted her, she ran into the woods, disappearing into the darkness. Lisa decided to cut all ties with Emily, blocking her on all platforms and changing her phone number. For a while, things seemed to return to normal, until Lisa's new friend, Sarah, went missing. A week later, Sarah's body was found in the woods, with the same bracelet Lisa had received clutched in her hand. Realizing Emily was dangerous, Lisa contacted the police again, but they couldn't find any trace of Emily. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Months passed, and Lisa tried to rebuild her life. One night, she received an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "I miss you." Attached was a photo of Lisa sleeping in her bed, taken from inside her room. The story ends with Lisa fleeing the town, her whereabouts unknown. But wherever she goes, she always feels a presence watching her, and she knows Emily will never let her go. Lisa moved to a bustling city hundreds of miles away, hoping to disappear in the crowd. She changed her name to Sophie, dyed her hair, and deleted every trace of her old life. For a while, she felt safe. She got a new job, made new friends, and started to believe she had left her terrifying past behind. But the paranoia never fully left her. She would wake up at night, heart racing, convinced she'd heard footsteps outside her apartment door. She double-checked her locks, installed cameras, and kept her phone close. Yet there were no signs of Emily. It was as if her best friend had truly vanished. One evening, Lisa, or Sophie, as she now called herself, was invited to a co-worker's birthday party. It was the first time she felt relaxed enough to let her guard down. The party was held at a trendy rooftop bar, and the lively music and laughter drowned out her lingering fears. As the night wore on, Lisa noticed a woman sitting alone at the far end of the rooftop. The woman's face was obscured by shadows, but something about her posture seemed eerily familiar. Lisa shook off the thought, blaming her overactive imagination. When she went to the bar to order a drink, the bartender handed her a folded napkin. "This is for you," he said, nodding toward the empty chair the mysterious woman had been sitting in. Lisa unfolded the napkin, her hands trembling. Written in shaky handwriting were the words, "Best friends forever. You can't run from me." Lisa's blood ran cold. She turned around, but the woman was gone. She left the party immediately, her heart pounding as she walked the streets back to her apartment. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept the lights on and stared at her door, half expecting Emily to burst through it. But nothing happened. The next morning, Lisa checked her security cameras. Most of the footage was uneventful, but at 3:13 a.m., the camera in her living room captured a figure standing just outside her bedroom door. The figure didn't move, didn't breathe. It simply stood there, staring at the door for hours before disappearing as the sun rose. Lisa called the police, but they found no signs of forced entry. "Maybe it's a glitch in the camera," the officer suggested, though his uneasy expression said otherwise. Determined to protect herself, Lisa bought a dog, a German shepherd named Max. She hoped his presence would deter anyone from trying to break in. Max quickly became her constant companion, and for a few weeks, life felt normal again. But one night, Max started growling at the corner of the living room. His ears were pinned back, his teeth bared, as if he could see something Lisa couldn't. "What is it, boy?" she whispered, her voice shaking. Max lunged toward the corner, barking furiously. Suddenly the lights flickered, and the temperature in the room plummeted. Lisa grabbed her phone to call for help, but before she could dial, the lights went out completely. In the darkness, she heard a familiar voice, soft and chilling. "Lisa, why are you hiding from me? I'm your best friend. I'll always find you." The lights came back on, and Lisa saw Emily standing in the middle of the room. Her once vibrant face was pale and gaunt, her eyes hollow and lifeless. Lisa screamed and ran toward the door, but Emily moved impossibly fast, blocking her path. "You don't understand," Emily whispered. "I did everything for you. I got rid of them so we could be together." "What are you talking about?" Lisa cried. "Your new friends," Emily said, her lips curling into a twisted smile. "They were trying to take you away from me. But don't worry, I took care of them, just like I'll take care of anyone who tries to come between us." Lisa grabbed a lamp and swung it at Emily, but it passed through her as if she were made of smoke. Emily laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally. "You can't get rid of me, Lisa. I'm part of you now." The room went cold again, and Emily's figure began to dissolve into the air. But before she disappeared completely, she whispered one final warning, "You'll never escape me." The story ends with Lisa sitting on her couch, clutching Max as tears streamed down her face. She realized that Emily wasn't just a deranged friend. She was something far worse, something not entirely human. And no matter how far Lisa ran, she would never truly be free. Lisa didn't sleep for days after the encounter. Every shadow in her apartment felt alive. Every creak in the floorboards sent her heart racing. She spent her days researching anything that could explain Emily's supernatural presence. Was it a ghost? A demon? Something else entirely? One night, while combing through old journals and photo albums, Lisa stumbled upon a diary she had kept during her teenage years. It was filled with memories of her and Emily, but one entry stood out. Emily's been acting weird again. She says we're soul-bound, whatever that means. She made me swear I'd never leave her, no matter what. I didn't take it seriously, but the way she looked at me, it scared me. The memory hit Lisa like a truck. Emily had always been obsessed with the idea of their friendship lasting forever. Could she have done something to bind them together, even in death? Lisa decided to visit her hometown, hoping to find answers. She hadn't been back since she fled, but she knew she had no choice. With Max by her side, she drove through the night, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. When she arrived, the town felt smaller and eerier than she remembered. She went straight to Emily's old house, which had been abandoned for years. The windows were shattered, and the front door hung off its hinges. As she stepped inside, the air grew heavy, and the faint scent of lavender, the perfume Emily always wore, filled the room. Lisa searched the house, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. In Emily's bedroom, she found a box tucked under the bed. Inside were photos of Lisa, locks of her hair, and strange symbols scrawled on pieces of paper. One page caught her eye. It was titled, "The Binding Ritual." The instructions were chillingly specific. 1. A personal item from the one you wish to bind. 2. A promise, spoken aloud under the light of a full moon. 3. A drop of blood to seal the connection. Lisa's mind raced. She remembered the bracelet Emily had given her, the one she had thrown away after the nightmares began. Had Emily used it for this ritual? As she pieced the clues together, the house grew colder. A soft humming echoed through the halls, a tune Lisa recognized from their childhood. Her flashlight flickered, and she turned to see Emily standing in the doorway, her translucent figure glowing faintly. "You shouldn't have come back," Emily said, her voice calm but menacing. "Why are you doing this?" Lisa demanded. "Why can't you just leave me alone?" Emily stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "Because I made a promise, and so did you. Best friends forever, remember. You're mine, Lisa. No one else gets to have you." Lisa's fear turned to anger. "You're not my friend. You're a monster." Emily's face twisted in rage, and the house began to shake. "If I can't have you," she hissed, "no one can." Lisa grabbed the box and ran, Max barking fiercely at the apparition. As she fled the house, Emily's screams echoed behind her, growing louder and more distorted. Back at her motel, Lisa examined the ritual instructions again. There was a final step written in faint ink. To break the bond, destroy the object, and sever the promise. Lisa realized she had to find the bracelet, but where was it now? She had thrown it away years ago. Desperate, she called her parents and asked if they had kept any of her old belongings. Her mother hesitated before answering. "There's a box in the attic. I didn't have the heart to throw it out." "Why?" Lisa's heart sank. She knew the bracelet was there. Lisa wasted no time. She packed her things, secured Max in the car, and drove to her parents' house. The thought of the bracelet sitting in the attic sent shivers down her spine, but she knew it was the key to breaking Emily's hold over her. When she arrived, her parents greeted her with concern. "You look exhausted, honey," her mom said. "Are you okay?" Lisa forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mom. I just need to check the attic for something important." Her father offered to help, but Lisa insisted on going alone. She didn't want to involve them any more than she already had. As she climbed into the dusty attic, memories of her childhood flooded back. The smell of old wood and mothballs was overwhelming, but she pushed through, searching for the box her mother mentioned. After what felt like hours, she found it. A small weathered cardboard box labeled Lisa's keepsakes. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were old photos, school projects, and at the very bottom, the bracelet. The moment she touched it, a wave of nausea hit her. The room seemed to spin, and she heard Emily's voice whispering, "You found it. Now you can never escape." Lisa stumbled back, clutching the bracelet. Max barked from downstairs, sensing her distress. Gathering her strength, she descended from the attic and explained to her parents that she needed to leave immediately. They looked worried, but didn't press her for details. That night, Lisa drove to an isolated clearing in the woods, determined to destroy the bracelet. She brought a lighter, gasoline, and a hammer. Anything she could think of to ensure it was obliterated. As she prepared to burn the bracelet, the air grew unnaturally still. A chilling voice echoed around her. "Don't do this, Lisa. You'll regret it." Emily's ghostly figure appeared, her eyes filled with rage. "We're bound forever. You can't break us apart." Lisa ignored her, pouring gasoline over the bracelet. But before she could light the match, Emily lunged at her. Though Emily was no longer human, her presence was powerful. Lisa felt a cold, crushing force around her chest, as if invisible hands were squeezing the life out of her. Max barked ferociously, snapping Lisa out of her paralysis. She struck the match and dropped it onto the bracelet. Flames roared to life, consuming the object. Emily let out a blood-curdling scream, her form flickering and distorting. "You'll regret this," Emily shrieked as her figure began to dissolve. "You'll never be free of me." The fire burned brighter and hotter, and with one final scream, Emily disappeared into the night. The oppressive cold lifted, and the forest was silent once more. Lisa collapsed to the ground, tears streaming down her face. Max nuzzled her, his warm presence grounding her in reality. It was over, or so she thought. For weeks after destroying the bracelet, Lisa felt a sense of relief she hadn't experienced in years. The oppressive cold that seemed to follow her was gone, and her nightmares about Emily had stopped. She began to believe that she was finally free. She moved back to the city, started therapy, and even joined a support group for people recovering from trauma. Slowly, her life started to feel normal again. But deep down, a nagging feeling remained. Emily's final words echoed in her mind. "You'll never be free of me." One evening, Lisa decided to attend a group meeting at a local community center. She shared her story, leaving out the supernatural details, and found comfort in the supportive words of others. On her way out, a woman approached her. "You're so brave," the woman said, her voice soft and warm. "I know what it's like to have someone you trusted turn on you." Lisa smiled, grateful for the kindness. "Thank you. It's been a long road, but I think I'm finally moving on." The woman reached out and touched Lisa's arm. "I'm sure you are. But sometimes the past has a way of finding us again." Lisa froze. There was something eerily familiar about the woman's eyes. Before she could respond, the woman turned and disappeared into the crowd. That night, Lisa couldn't shake the encounter. She tried to convince herself it was just her imagination, but her unease grew when Max started acting strangely again. He would growl at empty corners and refuse to enter certain rooms. One night, Lisa woke up to the sound of scratching. At first, she thought it was Max, but when she turned on the light, she saw him cowering under the bed. The scratching grew louder, coming from inside the walls. Lisa grabbed a flashlight and followed the noise to the living room. There, on the wall, she saw faint words carved into the paint. "You can't get rid of me." Her blood ran cold. She called a contractor to inspect the house, hoping for a rational explanation. The man arrived the next morning and began checking the walls. After hours of work, he called Lisa over. "You're not going to believe this," he said, his face pale. He had found a small compartment hidden behind the drywall. Inside was an old, charred piece of metal, a fragment of the bracelet Lisa had burned. Lisa stared at it in disbelief. "That's impossible," she whispered. The contractor left, unnerved by the discovery, but Lisa couldn't leave it alone. She knew Emily was still tied to her somehow. Desperate, she reached out to a local paranormal expert she had heard about in her support group. The expert, an older woman named Clara, arrived at Lisa's home that evening. Clara examined the fragment and the carvings on the wall, her expression grim. "This isn't just a haunting," Clara said. "Emily bound herself to you in a way that goes beyond death. Destroying the bracelet weakened her, but it didn't sever the connection completely. To break the bond for good, you'll need to confront her where it all began." Lisa's stomach churned. "You mean her house?" Clara nodded. "The ritual was performed there, and her spirit is still tethered to that place. You'll need to face her one last time and perform a reversal ritual, but be warned, it will be dangerous. Emily won't let go without a fight." Lisa's hands trembled as she packed her car for the trip back to Emily's house. The fragment of the bracelet, now wrapped in cloth, sat on the passenger seat. Max whined softly from the back seat, sensing Lisa's unease. Clara had given her detailed instructions for the reversal ritual. She would need salt, candles, a mirror, and Emily's personal item, the bracelet fragment. Clara also gave her a warning. "Emily's spirit will fight you. She's desperate to keep you bound. Whatever happens, don't lose focus." As Lisa approached the decrepit house, her anxiety mounted. The structure loomed like a dark sentinel against the moonlit sky. Its broken windows and sagging roof seemed to mock her courage. Taking a deep breath, Lisa entered the house. The air inside was heavy and cold, carrying the faint scent of lavender. Shadows danced along the walls, though there was no light source. Lisa set up the ritual in Emily's old bedroom, where she had found the box of belongings. She placed the mirror in the center of the room, surrounded it with a circle of salt, and lit the candles. Finally, she placed the bracelet fragment on the mirror and began reciting the incantation Clara had given her. At first, nothing happened. The room was eerily silent, save for the sound of Lisa's shaky voice. But as she repeated the incantation, the temperature dropped further, and the candles flickered violently. Then Emily appeared. Her ghostly figure materialized in the corner of the room, her face twisted in rage. "You think you can get rid of me?" she hissed, her voice echoing unnaturally. "You're mine, Lisa. You always will be." Lisa's heart pounded, but she kept reciting the incantation. Emily stepped closer, her form shifting between solid and translucent. "Stop this," she screamed. "You don't know what you're doing." The room began to shake, and the mirror cracked under the weight of the ritual's energy. Emily lunged at Lisa, but the salt barrier held her back. "You betrayed me," Emily shrieked. "I gave you everything and you threw me away." Tears streamed down Lisa's face as she continued the ritual. "You were my best friend, Emily. I loved you, but you turned that love into something twisted. It's time to let go. The mirror shattered, and the fragment of the bracelet burst into flames. Emily let out a deafening scream, her form dissolving into a swirl of smoke and light. The house trembled violently, and Lisa was thrown to the ground. When the chaos subsided, the room was silent. The oppressive cold was gone, replaced by a stillness that felt almost peaceful. Lisa looked around, her body trembling with exhaustion. Emily was gone. Lisa staggered out of the house, clutching Max tightly. As she looked back at the dilapidated structure, she felt a strange mix of sorrow and relief. Emily was finally at peace, and so was she. In the days that followed, Lisa began to rebuild her life with a renewed sense of purpose. She carried the lessons of her friendship with Emily with her, but refused to let them define her. For the first time in years, she felt free. But late at night, when the world was quiet, she sometimes thought she heard a faint whisper. Best friends forever. The end.